those factors which you feel a person should have in their conversation so that it can enlighten a spark which can help them do some business, build some good relationship?
Two layers of that occur to me. The most fundamental is that that spark is always there. It's the spark of our actual life force, spark of our universal mind, the intelligence of our life force.
Welcome everybody, welcome to Podcast with Dimpy, where we dive into real conversation and fresh insights around mindset and business. Today we have got Craig with us, who is into conscious leadership and has been the Amazon bestseller. So let's welcome him. Welcome Craig to Podcast with Dimpy.
I'm thrilled to be here, and I want to talk more about that.
Yeah, Craig.
Yeah.
So it was such an infectious energy in our pre-podcast discussion also, and I want you to tell more about you and what you are doing, how you're helping other people, so that people can learn more about you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to do that, but I'm going to preface it with this. I'm not just excited today to share, I love what I do and how it's helping people, and I think it'll engage your audience, my sense of you as somebody they watch and listen to. So it's a very important topic, actually, one of the most important, I think, there exists for a human being at the heart of it. But more than that, I'm doing this because of the experience I had meeting you, Dimpy. And we've talked about how there was this spark of something that's really hard to put into words. And yet it just made the communication and the connection feel just right. It lightened my life and like yours too. And so we had a wonderful initial discussion. I'm sure we'll have one today. And I'm even feeling it as I'm talking about it. And the reason I'm leading with this and highlighting this is because this is at the essence of my work. There's a dimension of life, let's put it that way, that's so real and wonderful and powerful. And generally, it's kind of behind the scenes with people because we're all involved in our daily lives and our struggles and our successes and our losses and our emotions and the details. And that's all there. And it's a blessing in a way. But if we can sometimes stop and kind of look behind the scene and get a feeling for who are we really and what is this life, we start to feel this joy and this delight and this clarity. And so I guess I want to just remind, because I know everybody knows this, everybody who's listening and watching. They may not think they know it at the moment. They may have not remembered it, but they know it. And I'm just putting that out to remind you to, just relax, listen to our conversation today, and pay attention to the feeling of it, because that's got way more information and useful information in it than you may realize. So I just want to put that out there. And then you wanted me to introduce myself.
I'm really honored by these words, Craig. Similarly, I feel the same because I think your energy is really infectious. It was so warm. I was really excited for this podcast. Anyways, I wanted to understand more about you when you speak about conscious leadership. So I feel that most people, they think they know, but they're not aware of themselves. So you mostly work on these three terms, which is mind, consciousness, and thought. So what are these? What inspired you to explore these three principles in your work?
Well, the I've been a pioneer now for over 4 decades in what's been called the three principles movement. And those three principles identified and articulated originally by a man named Sidney Banks, who's no longer alive. But I knew him personally and was a student of his for decades. And he was a welder. He was not a professional, but he had a spontaneous awakening, and I talk about it in my book, Reality Shattering Insights, which we'll probably mention later. And I go much more in depth in his experience in the second book. From this awakening that this man had, he identified what he called the three principles of universal mind, universal consciousness, and universal thought. And the way he articulated those, not just in terms of the words, but in terms of the perspective and the feeling behind them, like I was saying a moment ago, simply listening to him or anyone like me who's kind of become grounded in that understanding, it can spark awakening with the slightest thing. You wouldn't expect it. I'll give you an example that was the one that triggered it for Sid Banks. He was racked with self consciousness and anxiousness about being not smart enough and not acceptable enough, and he could hardly talk around people. And he was just really in agony about that, and he couldn't find an answer. And he never went to therapy. He wasn't into religion. He wasn't searching in that way, and now it was affecting his marriage, and he didn't want to lose his wife. And so he was talking with somebody who knew him, was going on and on. There's a backstory to this, but I'm not going to go into it. And he was going on and on to this friend about how insecure he was, and his friend just stopped him and said, Sid, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I've known you for 13 years, I think it was. He said, you're not insecure, you just think you are. That hit Sid so hard. It was a simple comment, and his friend meant it, but the truth in it, possibility in it, hit Sid so deep. He went, and he started reflecting on it, and it set off this whole awakening process that took 3 days. And through, actually it was a very quick awakening, but the unwinding of it took 3 days and 3 nights. And on the other side of it, he had completely changed, and he was no longer experiencing himself as an insecure. He
Wow.
was experiencing him.
I completely can relate to it because sometimes it's just few words, but you need to connect to a person. And then if you connect to a person, then even just few words, a sentence can just bring some magical experience to your life. But Craig, I want to understand because you told multiple times in our conversation, just in 5-10 minutes of our conversation, that with few people we feel spark, we feel that there is some energy, and with few people we may not feel the right energy, we may not feel the right spark. So what are those factors which you feel a person should have in their conversation so that it can enlighten a spark which can help them do some business, build some good relationship? So, what do you think? What are those factors?
Two layers of that occur to me. The most fundamental is that that spark is always there. It's the spark of our actual life force, spark of our universal mind, the intelligence of our life force, and the spark of that, or energy of that universal consciousness that we have in that to experience life. So that's the more I awaken to that personally and live in that, I find that spark always there with all people, but to various degrees. And so the second layer is I can increase the degree simply not only through my realization that, oh, it's always there. And I love the feeling of it. And I love it when the other person feels it and we can hear it. But sometimes they don't. They're not that aware. But I can still feel it. And what helps me, and then could help them, of course, is there's a term we've come up with in the Three Principles community called deep listening. Not just listening with my head and my intellect. Oh, your name is Dimpy, and you've done this and that, and that's all there. But quieting that down and just being present, being available to experience Dimpy, and to experience my life and me and Dimpy, and there's a connection there that gets spark. It could feel like a spark, like it was with you, but under that, before the spark is just, it's a a lot in the field now talk about energy and frequency and vibration, and that's more and more acceptable and not just woo woo because science is backing that up, right? So there's I would say, just an underlying beautiful vibration between people, even people you would say are decrepit, or they're just horrible people because of what they're doing or have done. You can feel that. It doesn't make their behavior acceptable, but you see them in a light of love and understanding and then relate to them in more humane and effective ways. You may still lock them up in jail to keep society safe. You're doing it in this more pure spirit, or Holy Spirit, you might say.
Amazing.
So am I addressing that? Like, so to put in a nutshell, the answer to your question is, well, we just need to realize our innate ability to be more present and listening beyond our head with our heart, maybe you'd call it, and realize that that's a gift to yourself. Whether the other person joins with you, that's frosting on the cake.
Yeah.
But just you doing that, you're giving that gift to yourself to relax, be present, and let the moment guide you in where the discussion or where the relationship may go. And now you bring leadership into that. Now you aren't wedded to your concept of a leader. You can be a leader in response. You've got a vision of where you want to take the people and a positive feeling, I assume, about that rather than pressure. If it's pressure, we need to meet. We need to talk about that. Where you want to take people, and now you can get a vision and a feeling for where they're at and are they on track or not. And then enjoy being creative in the moment and helping them see and persuading them in that direction.
Amazing, amazing. You mentioned a very, very important point because most of the people, when they have a conversation, they have a conversation with the mind that how they can impress the other person. But actually, the real impression can come by just being present at the moment and listening from your heart and soul what the other person says. And I think
Right.
you said, and I think I will not say I'm a good listener, but I have been consciously trying to be a better listener because I feel this is a very, very important skill which I need to incorporate in myself. So I'm trying my best. I think you said
Let me mirror that back to you. Yeah, being a leader, not more, not just wanting to be seen as a leader, really being a leader. And then the flip side of listening to the feedback from the world, the people about, whoever and whatever they are and whatever they're doing, you can
yeah.
also then listen to the inner leader in you, the inner intelligence and creativity, and even more than intelligence, genius in there. Really, the more you go into it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is genius. And then you get passionate, like you can tell I am. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. And I just want to express it and enjoy it and I don't want to push it on anyone. But if others are interested, and it seems like more and more that's happening in the world, then great, let's get together and have it be a win-win.
But isn't Craig? This is a belief. We believe that we are a star. Like for me, I felt this belief quite later after learning many things in my life. How does this belief comes that we are actually a shining star? We are the diamond in the coal. We are just hidden behind this coal or something like that. So how does this belief?
Great question. Great question. And what stands out to me is your use of the word belief. And so what the audience doesn't know that we have talked about is I came to a point when I was 28 years old and I had a personal awakening similar to Sid's before I met him. So when I found out about him and met him, it just validated his experience and it enhanced mine as well. But what that revealed to me is it's not on the level of belief. It's on the level of knowing with a capital K. So it's fine to practice the idea that you're a star and believe in that and aspire to that. But then there's a point where it's got to become real. It has to become felt. And it's like, how do I feel that? And if it's true, where is it? Well, the more clarity you get about the true nature of life, and that what each of us experiences as our life in the world is a projection of the mind. I'm a psychologist. It's a projection of the mind that we're feeling, and we're participating in what's being projected. And if we don't realize it, we think, well, what I'm feeling is reality happening to me, and I'm just a victim. No, if we start to see the traffic doesn't, I've always felt like the traffic stresses me out. And I'm realizing, no, it's just how I was looking at it. Just like Sid. I always thought I was insecure because there's a whole story. I said he was adopted, so he felt like his own parents didn't love him. All these reasons he didn't finish school and all this stuff about why he was insecure. And then he realized, oh my gosh, it's just because I thought I was. I really wasn't. And once you see that, you can't unsee that.
Amazing, yeah.
So when we start to, that's what I'm hoping some people hear now in our conversation as they're listening. Like I said, kind of, I didn't put it this way, but listen for the feeling of truth of what we're discussing here. And if you start to feel that, then you're realizing the feeling of the star shining inside of you, to use your metaphor, and it attracts you and it validates itself. So it's a reality that can be known and felt inside you. And another way to say that is before you're thinking. behind your thinking. Like we look out in the world through our eyes and we see and experience what we're looking at, but do we ever stop and reflect on, well, what's looking through my eyes to experience that? Oh no, we hardly ever do that. And if we stop and reflect, we can start to get a feeling for something that's invisible, but
Yeah.
it's real. And we use it all the time. And we're
Hmm.
using it to look out through our eyes. And as we get in touch with it, our clarity improves, our feeling of centeredness and peace and joy improve. And it's like, whoop, there's the one direction that changes everything.
So well said. So, Greg, you have been also helping leaders when they feel void, or in fact, I have come across many leaders who feel void and they feel purposeless, and they are in senior position. They don't lack money. Why do mostly senior leaders, people who are in a good position, feel like this? And how do you help them with such situation?
They're intelligent enough and capable enough to be successful leaders to a
Yeah.
degree in the world. So they've made money. And in the world, by definition, is that's what I would call the outside. And it has its place and it's a gift. But they've come to the point of feeling, like you, as you've described, the outside can only give what it can give. You can eat a nice meal and go, that tastes good. I like that. Oh, I made a lot of money. That's good. I have more choices. But that does not satisfy the thirst or the hunger for the inside because you're looking in the wrong direction. So I simply take the time, and with me, it seems to take no more than a sessions together that they start to not only see what I'm talking about, because remember I said it's invisible.
Yeah.
So my job is to get people to see what's real but invisible. And sometimes that I use the term spiritual. My definition, working definition of spiritual is the dimension of human life that's real but formless.
Hmm.
So if I can get people to start to feel what's real but invisible, empowering them, now they're going to start to feel some motivation and inspiration and hope, satisfaction. They'll start to feel like, I think I'm onto something. Even if intellectually it's kind of weird, like I've never thought this way, but it kind of makes sense. The first psychiatrist who ever got involved in the three principles movement had a great little story. I was having lunch with another psychologist who was into the three principles, and he's a psychiatrist. And he said, I listened to him for an hour and a half over lunch, and I didn't understand a word he said. What he understood English, but he didn't understand a word he said. And he said, but you know what? Inside of me, I have a truth meter. The whole time, the truth meter was stuck on true. So there's a deeper part of us that we can feel that goes, ring of truth, pay attention. And it doesn't mean invalidate your it just
Yeah.
means look beyond it, put it in its proper place.
Amazing. But Craig, do you in your sessions, what I understand, you ask a lot of questions like, do people have all the answers with themselves, or you help them get the right answers? So how does the session look like?
Well, that's interesting. Yes, everybody does have. How can we not have all the answers in us? I'm going to go kind of cosmic here, but we each are the whole universe located as individuals. That energy and intelligence that created the whole thing is also creating us and planted itself right inside of us. And so as we go inside, the us we come to know better is, in fact, the intelligence of all things. So there's where people go start to realize, oh, the world I've been living in is an illusion. And it doesn't mean it's not real. It just means it's not what it appeared to. And I am really one with everyone and everything. Now that's kind of a big mystical statement that some people might, but it's true. So in a way, right now with you, and I feel it's interesting. I feel this in a sense with whoever your audience is. I feel a connection, a kindred connection, a oneness that, so in a way, I'm sharing my joy with me here. I'm
Yeah.
talking to me, but you're there too. And isn't that interesting and wonderful? And and then do you get benefit? Do you enjoy it? I hope so, but that's out of my control. It's
Hmm.
totally in your hands.
Yeah.
So did I answer your question? I forgot the question.
So my question was, when a person comes in your session, taking session,
Oh, yes.
how does the session looks like? Do you ask a lot of questions, or do you help them, or do you answer their questions?
First, my job first is really to know them and connect with them as a person. Even if they're in a leadership role, they're not their identity. Well, it's interesting. I would say is not a leader as we think. I lead a company.
Yeah, yeah,
They're a individual, but then in another sense, guess who's leading your life? You are. So in another level, you are the leader,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So my job is to really get to know the person on a feeling level. And I don't mean emotionally like traditional psychology from the past, like tell me all your secrets and all your abuses and all your, and get
Traumas.
your emotions out. Not that stuff, but just really connecting on a feeling level. So at first, I do a lot of inquiry and listening until I see that that person feels heard and understood. And it's obvious they relax, they lighten up, they start asking questions. So, and I have kind of a formal process of how do I get to know people, not formal in a rigid, in just a logical sense,
Yeah.
and as I get to know them, our mutual ability to be present and listen gets better and better and better. And then we bring it into the area of what do you want to get out of meeting with me? Well, they usually say, well, as a leader, I want these things. And as a person, I want to be a better leader, but I don't want my stress and I don't want
Yeah.
my anxiety, and
Burnout.
all that kind of stuff. So it is the sessions tend to be deep but comfortable, kind of casual, interesting, conversational, and guided psychoeducational in that along the way, I tell them, I want to educate you about these three principles because just learning about them will help the process, help you wake up to what you're wanting from me and from these service. And sure enough, 99% that happens. All it requires on the client side is a sincere interest, an open mind, and a willingness to engage in and learn something and engage in these conversations.
Yeah.
And then they begin to find their own answers. And maybe it took me, like the person said to Sid, you're not insecure, you just think you are. That would have had no meaning for Sid if he hadn't connected to that in his own mind. So that statement helped him extract it from himself. And now that
Amazing.
what he shared has gone all over the world and it's helping countless people and right on the verge of coming into the mainstream into psychology.
I'm sure the session must be powerful for everyone who is taking your sessions. So Greg, I went through your profile and there was very powerful term which is vault. What I understood by the term of vault was vortex of living. So can you tell a little bit more to our audience that what is vault all about and how are you helping your clients using this vault?
Oh, Volt. Okay,
Yes.
Vault. Okay. Okay. Well, that's a big one, and I'll try to be succinct here. I created a four-book series. The first book is published called Volt, which stands for the Vortex of Living Truth. So as I awakened and have cultivated my ability to help others through the years, that metaphor really rang true to me that life itself is a vortex, and now quantum physics and everything is beginning to talk about it this way too, that there's the infinite beingness, and it just swirls to express itself, and it swirls within swirls, and now it's, the atoms in this microphone are atoms swirling, and I think it's just amazing the degree to what, but there's this core vortex from which we exist and who we are. So from I don't really go much into describing that in my first few books. The first book, called Reality Shattering Insights, Begin Life's Journey. And in it, I explore and actually begin to facilitate the human ability to completely transform in an instant. And I gave you an example from Sid. He heard one thing and it didn't take him years of therapy to figure it out. Clicked. And he completely began to change. Same thing happened. Well, I went through a longer process, but there was one instant where I was able to see and experience something that flipped it. And from that moment on, my passion has been to live it more and share it more. And it's not like a religion. It's more like just a joy of life, and it's compatible in my mind with most religion. If you got into the essence of what the religion. So the first book is my attempt to just see if I can get people's attention that they are interested in or might even remember that, you know what, there's been moments in my life where I'll just see something different and big change happen. Well, what if we can tap into that, not just more often, but what if we could live in that? Sid Banks said, you know, one insight can change a life, but did you know you can live in a state, an ongoing state of insight? That would be called enlightenment or whatever you want to call that. It's like, yes. So I'm putting that out to see who's interested. And if you are, cool. If you aren't, that is actually cool. That's like metaphorically, if I'm all excited about astrophysics and I talk to second graders about it, and there's one little kid in there going, cool, and the rest are just what the what? It's okay. They're just not into it, maybe ever or yet, you know. So, um,
Yeah.
but it
Not
is a
everyone is
possibility.
like it.
So, quickly go through the other books. So, the second book is where I go into the three principles breakthrough and Sid Banks' story and really go into depth in that. The people just reading my first book have gotten back to me, and some of them have had dramatic positive changes, if not life changing changes, just from the first book. The second book goes in depth into those three principles. The third book follows my own path. Like there's in the second book, it's made very clear that through listening to any truth, but particularly the three principles truth, with that deep listening ability that's innate in us, our consciousness can begin to invert and go back inside more and more and more and live from that more and more. And it's wonderful. And you could live that till your last day and have a wonderful life. But there's one more option that I had the blessing to experience that I have to share. And that is not only can you go into that unendingly, but a full inversion of consciousness like Sid Banks had can actually be facilitated directly. I was shown not only how to partially invert by listening to truth, metaphorically, turn my senses around and feel inside back to where they come from. And when I was first shown how to do that, and I did that, my whole being turned inside out. And it was like, I've arrived. I've been looking for this forever. And so is everyone else, whether they know it or not. So my third book talks about that experience. Actually, the person who taught me that was born in India, now bases his work out of the US. So I know there's a connection there that
Yeah.
maybe resonates. And then my fourth book is kind of those who have come with me down this path. Where do we go from here? We see something now that we probably, at minimum, we just want to live a joyful, healthy, beautiful life, loving life. But most of us will also feel that connection and oneness with others and will want to help bring it into the world and metaphorically create heaven on earth. And that's a possibility. So that's what the fourth book is
Wow.
about.
So your book series help a person lead a purposeful, happy, and peaceful life. What I'm understanding, these
Yes. Yes.
steps.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah.
And I'm not saying
Amazing.
it's the one and only way out there, but I'm saying it's the way I found that worked for me. And it's not just me, hundreds of thousands of people in the three principles, and it's millions of people's with what the third book all over the world that it's helped. They're living proof of it. So maybe you too, whoever it's listening out there,
Absolutely,
you know.
absolutely. People must go through this book, and I'm sure I will also like to go through this book myself. So, Craig, tell me what is the most common challenge or misconception which leaders have in their job, or what is the most common challenge which people come to you?
Well, if they don't come to me, they're just out there struggling. I would say the one most, maybe one way to describe the most important, I don't know if I want to call it a miss, it's a overlooking, is they don't realize the value or they don't put enough value on state of mind, self understanding. So they're caught up in their outer attempt to be a good leader and all the stress that comes with that. And the more they would understand state of mind, it would, just like with Sid, it would relieve the stress, free up the ability to be both a better leader and a more fulfilled. So that whole thing of the outside is they're in essence worshiping the outside for their fulfillment, and they're getting the lesson. Either they haven't found it yet or it's not out there. Where else could they possibly? Now, if they come to me, they're probably almost always somewhat aware of that. So in a way, I just work with their openness. If there's a common misconception, it's I would say that most people first come understandably thinking they have to figure it out intellectually. Oh, I have to figure this out. Like, okay, what are the terms? How do I use these three principles? Am I doing it right? What should I do? Know what? It's already in you. This is a relief. You can back out of all that. What?
Yeah.
What? Because they've
Super.
lived their whole life like I had. Well, not totally, but 99%, whatever. That's what makes me succeed in the world. It's like, what? I can succeed with relaxing that? No, I'd be lazy and irresponsible. Yes, you could be, or free up the genius and the well being. Let's explore that. And when they come to me, they're willing to explore that. So we begin to explore it and it opens up more and more.
Amazing. So now you told there is two section of people. One who is aware and they will come to you, or they will take help of any mentor. That they feel that there is some challenge, and they feel that outer work, productivity, hacks, or whatever they are trying to learn from outside is not helping, and they are aware they are helping. What is that one thing which you will tell for people who are stuck and who are listening to this podcast? They can help, they can take steps themselves to be little more happier, to be little more peaceful in the journey.
Really the same answer. If we're, I'm not saying like in our world, of course, I live in Minnesota in the US. We get blizzards here. Your car can be stuck in the snow. Right?
Yeah,
But does that have to feel like a problem? It can just be what it is. You're happy to be alive and deal with it. Oh, I got to change my plans. Is that a problem? Only if you think it is.
yeah,
So if a person's feeling stuck, one of the things that really helps people and helps me is when I begin to wake up more and more to the true nature of life. And I'll give you an example here. But before I do, I think I mentioned this earlier. When you see something true, you can't unsee it. It impacts you. You can forget it for a while. You can't unsee it. So when I see once more that the true nature of life is it's never stuck, no matter what, or in our past, no matter, we've all had heartbreak, we've all had failure, we've all had stuckness feelings, we've all had all of that. Guess what? Here we are. We are not our experience.
we are not
The
our
experience.
experience.
So, but life itself goes forward. One more breath, one more gift of life, one more fresh start. And we can't help but learn as we go. It's the nature of the system. The baby doesn't try to learn, it just, so that's still alive in us. So if we're feeling stuck, there's a saying that I've learned originated in India that comes to mind, and it's like when you see a problem and maybe you're stuck with it, close your eyes, meditate until the problem's gone, and then open your eyes and proceed. And for me, it's not like, oh, the car isn't stuck anymore. It's that doesn't feel like a problem to me. I'm good. Now I'll go back into my world and I'm going to be more effective at dealing.
Yeah, but I feel, Greg, now people who have been practicing meditation in the good times, in the bad times, now when they are stuck in the bad time, they definitely, meditation can help them. But when a person who has not been meditating earlier and a problem arises and then they try to learn meditation, during that meditation they start thinking too much of their problems, and then because they are so much overburdened with their thoughts, they feel that, because thoughts are also a part of meditation which they don't feel at that moment, which they are not able to understand at that moment. So I feel meditation can help a person, but it cannot help a person, it can help a person when they are not in a problem. Means it will prepare you for the future problem to handle anything in a better way, but maybe not during those problems it can help. Means this is my thought
Right.
or belief.
And yes, yes, I agree. And when you, with what's generally called meditation out there, and there's many, many things, but it's basically an effort to try to light your mind to have a better experience.
Yeah,
And so when I use that metaphor, maybe a more westernized psychological way to say it would be when you're dealing with a problem or stuck in a problem, just back off from it mentally, settle down into the moment, let your mind quiet down, kind of free your mind, take a vacation, vacate your mind from it, and then come back.
I think
And sometimes the problem's gone then. It was just your mood.
absolutely.
Sometimes you come back and it's like one of my colleagues said, yeah, your problems shrink to the size of a postage stamp. It's like, oh yeah, okay, now it's not a big deal. It's just something,
I
right?
agree. many things time can also solve. So my last question to you, Craig, will be, your book is an Amazon bestseller. I wanted to share some very powerful insight from your book, which you'd like to say to our audience.
Kind of been talking about it all along here. What a powerful insight. Let me see if I can say it in a fresh, different way. Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't put it this way in this discussion. What we're looking for, and I want people, when you hear this, remember I said about listen to the feeling of this, because your logical mind might immediately reject it as impossible or frivolous. What we're looking for, we already have inside of us everything. And that I know can be what? Well, I need a sandwich for lunch. That's inside of me. If we had the time, I could explain it. Yes, it is. But like, but don't try to deal with it right now that way. But just feel that possibility that you already have everything you've ever wanted, and you already are everything you've already wanted, and you just don't realize it. And it's a weird thing. It's kind of like the more you want it, but the less you try, the more you'll realize. Because it's the very trying. Another quote from Sid. I didn't realize I'd be quoting him so much today. He said, "When you give up the search, you'll find what you're looking for." He was
Amazing.
searching, 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 and then when he heard that, he went and he gave up the search, and he started to feel better.
Yeah.
His very sincere attempt was good until the point where it was distracting him from what realizing he already had what he was looking
Yeah, yeah. That's why I think many people who are so relaxed, we think that they are getting luckier, they are getting easier success because they're so much relaxed. For with this thought, I will definitely like to explore more on your book, and we are going to keep all the links of your book and your LinkedIn and other website in the bottom of this YouTube. So people who are listening to this podcast, go to reach out to Craig, follow him, follow Craig, explore this book, amazing book, which I am myself, going to purchase right now. So thank you, Craig, for this amazing, amazing conversation. I had a wonderful time. I am sure people who are listening to this, they will also have multiple bulb moments from this conversation. I think it was just a light, carefree conversation, which I really enjoyed. Thank you, Craig, once again.
for. Thank you. And
Yeah.
to your audience.